Okay.
I'm not 3.
Okay. Moving from our home in Eureka to a farm with more space, like what do you think has changed the most?
Changed like our personalities a little bit, because having more land to run around in is pretty nice.
What's nice about it?
I can go wherever.
You can go wherever, that's right.
It feels like I'm on 100 acres, because I haven't explored all of it yet. We go hiking a lot. At the old house, I dream of like having so many chickens and selling so many eggs and making just a tiny little business.
Tiny little business?
Yes.
Yeah. And now you can?
Yes, and actually now I can make a big business. On the farm, there's more excitement. I usually hear Mom and Dad talking about things that they want to do, and then hearing them say, we're gonna do this on Wednesday or something, and then I put it in my planner. And then on that day, I know that if I follow him, I can do some stuff there. And that's why I like planning on the farm. It's also fun work. It's not just hard. Sometimes when I go out there, I'll find that maybe the water's frozen and I like solving my own problems. When there's a problem with the chickens, like Samson, the dog that lives in our house, he likes to chase my chickens. So one of them has like a hole in its back, and I fixed that up so I don't have to just run around thinking, well, what am I gonna do now? Because everybody's doing their own thing. I can do my face painting.
I have lived in Houston for the last 15 years. I'm a city person. I have a lot of allergies, but I forget how much I actually do enjoy being in nature despite the fact that I have all these allergies. And taking the time to notice the foliage, the wind rustling in the trees, the way the grass moves, the smell of clean air. And it's awesome to see her kids enjoying the outside, right? You know, they have so much to explore. And it reminds me of books I read growing up. It reminded me of like Bridge to Terabithia, that sense of like wonder and exploration. I had a lot of really good conversations with Ricky about their successes and their failures. So how'd you guys figure out how to catch bees in the first place?
A neighbor.
Yeah?
I said I really wanted to start beekeeping.
The only context I had for a lot of their farm was what I saw on Instagram. Ricky had started a beehive and he was super pumped for the honey harvest, and when we got there, all the bees died. And it was a failure.
You see ants in here already? Ah, that's sad.
On Instagram, we only show the things that we succeeded at, and that's just not life, right? Our life is not 100% successes. This is a learning curve.
We made our first attempt at a beehive and honey. We lost our bees. So we'll start all over again in the spring. We'll catch a few more swarms, set those up, and we'll have better luck.
Beekeeping seminar. Gosh, I remember. And now we're still dealing with our bees. The work day for the nuns. We went to go help the nuns clean up their garden.
We're going to be the city people trying to farm, and there'll be looks and raised eyebrows, but
I love it. That's so nice.
you know, that's okay.
And you're from Oklahoma, right? And grew up on a farm.
Yeah, this was actually my farm jacket that my grandpa Darrow bought me. Has my name right there. Look at that. I wrote that when I was about 12 years old.
That's awesome.
This is mine, and now Agnes gets to wear it. I got this for Christmas from my grandpa. It was the last Christmas before he died, and he gave this to me. And I grew up actually on my grandpa's farm. So he had a house on a portion of his land. We lived on about 320 acres.
Wow.
And we had to move after he died. But now she gets to wear my jacket that I wore on my farm. As good quality. I know, I'm just like, this is the stuff that like actually lasted.
Why don't they make this stuff now?
So where do you start in becoming aware? I think that's where you asked me.
Yeah, I mean, like even in the midst of this, you know, like my kids are so little, like in the midst of everything, how do you even focus into like starting those habits, I guess?
And so just remembering who I am and the greater scheme of like this world and this universe and this planet and this whole space, and in the community of the saints and God the Father. So I will just put my hand on my chest. I'm just breathe in, realizing this is a gift. I'm supposed to be here. If I have breath in my lungs, God is willing my space to exist. He's willing my existence to exist. So much of our life is on autopilot. We don't want to admit that.
So what's that moment for you when you encountered that you had to go through a period of renewal and maybe your blueprint didn't match up with God's will.
What is it that needs to be renewed? Like currently, right now, as we speak, there are things right now that I am dealing with that I'm like, that is not what I planned. And we're harvesting our pumpkins, and this whole patch, this whole block where these volunteers came and they helped us plant did not yield any pumpkins. Just none. I've come to a forceful acceptance of this train in my life. It represents a lot. It represents every interruption that I don't want. But somehow, it's good for me. And I don't want it. I don't want that growth. I don't want it at all. I get so frustrated over it, and then I'm like, that train represents people's jobs. That train represents people's goods that are being moved across this country. Like, why am I so upset? It's out of my control. And I have to just be like, okay, Lord, this is being allowed for a reason and a season in my life, and I'm going to accept that and see, like, what can I learn from it? You're teaching me. And whenever you kind of have that perspective, like teaching and what you can learn, those times when things are out of control, it allows you to not be self-reliant, but God-reliant. It's like the most perfect form of spiritual feedback that you can get, right? Is to present yourself in need and to be given the spiritual food that you need to continue in your walk. We found out that we were pregnant with our 7th baby, and then about 3 or 4 months later, we found out that we lost Amelia, our little girl. And there's no theology book that prepares you for that level of sorrow.
Yeah, it's almost her birthday.
Amelia would have been born right about now. Yeah, she would have been born right about now. We would have had her. I know. We'll hold her one day. And I think that's the hard part, right? You don't know what's on the other side. And that's true. I did not know what was on the other side of grief after losing my daughter. I don't know what's on the other side, but I know who. I knew God was on the other side. And so Amelia's a part of our mission, and she has a special place. She has a special place on this farm. And she'll always have a special place in this dream.
Being up on the hill with them and seeing the grave and just seeing how they continue on God's mission with this suffering that they've endured as well, it hasn't broken them. Yes, there was that period of grief, but Leah asks the question, what is the tribute to your sorrow? What she means by that is you don't let your sorrow go and keep you in a pit of despair. How do you show tribute to that sorrow? By action, by increasing in prayer, by growing in holiness. Whatever that looks like for whatever sorrow moment that is. They desire to follow God's will, even if that will is confusing or doesn't make sense sometimes. Their tribute to that sorrow is this land, is being better parents, is truly trying to raise saints and being on mission for God.